Cool. So we're here today in the studio of xxxy. Hello.
Hello.
Where should we start? Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into music?
Yeah, okay. When I was a kid, maybe, well, I don't know, from like 11, 12 years old until I left school, I was playing in bands, kind of indie music, weird stoner vibes, getting together with my friends and jamming and that kind of stuff. And we had a band and we played a lot, and I really enjoyed just making music. And then when I left school and we all went off to different universities, the band thing stopped happening, and then I wasn't so much interested in like joining another band. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I just wanted to find a way to make music. And like at that time I was going out quite a lot to drum and bass parties, house and kind of techno parties in Manchester. It's like 18, 19 years old. I didn't really get into electronic music before then that much. I didn't really know anyone to kind of get me into it. And being out in the suburbs of Manchester, there's not a lot, that stuff happening. So when I was at university in Manchester, we'd go out, I had a bunch of friends, and we'd go out to these, electric chair and go to Sankey's and all this stuff. And so I was getting really into the music, and I was buying records and, learning to DJ. And then I just got enough money together to buy a PC and started to basically work on, I think it was Reason I started on. It to me it seemed very user-friendly, and now it just seems completely not. But then just learning basic things like how to synthesize stuff and how to do drum stuff, and it was all very kind of basic. But I kept at it, and then moved on to Cubase, and then just kept just playing around with stuff. And it took me quite a long time to actually get something finished, which I was reasonably happy with.
Did you teach yourself everything, or did you?
Yeah, mainly it was just, I had, I knew a couple of people that did stuff, but they did stuff on MPC, and it was kind of different. To me, that was completely confusing, and I couldn't get my head around it. But then I just used the internet, basically. YouTube videos, production forums, which I eventually realised were not that helpful.
Should have done online courses.
Well, yeah, I should have done, but this was
going back
like 2002, 2003. There was stuff around, but there wasn't quite as much stuff as there is now. There's so many more people making electronic music at home in their own studios now today than there was then. There was still information around, So yeah, I was just using that, and it was like lots of trial and error stuff, basically. Just I'd see if something worked, and if it didn't, then I'd try and work out why I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and then go on to the Dogs on Acid grid and get lots of really unhelpful tips from people about production. Yeah.
Where did you get sort of your first lucky break? Or?
Well, throughout university, I was making music, and then it was around 2005, 2006, and me and a couple of friends, we would go to London and go to the DMZ parties and go to these dubstep nights, and I was focused on kind of trying to make dubstep at the time, and there weren't a lot of people making. Well, there were a few, but there weren't huge amounts. So I was doing that, and I'd made a bunch of tunes at home, and then my friends had a radio show, an internet radio show on Breaks FM. I was at Breaks FM, but it was a Breaks website. They let them do this show, and I couldn't. My friend was like, "Oh, come on and do a mix," and I was like, "I can't mix. I don't have enough records. I'm not very good. Don't want to do that." So I used Ableton to do like an hour, or maybe half an hour, 45-minute mix of just on my own music that I made, and then put that together. I'd burn on CD because that was, before.
That's what we did.
Yeah, that's what we did. And then took it around to the house and played on the radio. And the guy that owned the radio was listening, and he got in contact and wanted to sign some music for his label. And that was it. Like, just that. Just him getting in touch and saying, "Oh, I'm putting music out." It gave me like confidence to then kick on. And obviously, I didn't for a few years start making music. So I was working. Well, I was still making it, but I wasn't really. I was still just learning. Cause I think because the first record was 2 tunes. Like some of the first tunes I ever made, like finished. So I was like, I couldn't really kick on from there. So it was working. But that was my big baby. It gave me confidence later on just to approach people and say, "Here's my music. Do you want to put it out?" Mm. And I've met a lot of people who ran labels and who got into the same thing as me through like the dubstep forum and everything else. Because when it started, it was just a very small community. Mm. So I had all these people on my AIM and on on my Skype that I talked to and talked about music, and we'd send stuff to each other and we'd listen to it, and and they'd give me feedback and so it got easier to learn about music then because I had other people that could help me out and give me feedback. Mm. Mm.
So where are we now? What time? What date was this? What year?
2006 is when the first record came out.
Okay, what label was that?
Pass.
What's the track?
the track is Forensics MCR, which is my name at the time, and the track was called First Dynasty. And it's like a sampled a the Chinese bow thing from a kung fu film or something, and then made a dubstep tune from it. It was very simple, but it seemed to do really well. It was very emotional. It was. Something that seems to happen with quite a lot of my music is the emotional aspect.
Melodic elements.
Yeah. But yeah, and people seem to really like it. I think the record sold really well. I never got any money from it, but yeah. That's the thing. I think it did really well, and that gave me confidence that I was good enough to make music, and people would care about it and whatever.
So how long did you stay in dubstep for?
Well, when I came back, that was kind of more like a straight up like half steppy kind of thing. It's quite slow pace, I guess. And I started making stuff that I really liked again, maybe 2010. It was still like dubstep, but it was kind of more like broken, kind of houseier, kind of more techno-y. So I stuck with it to I think 2010, 2011 I did a bunch of stuff, and then dubstep was changing completely the sound into something which I thought was awful. I'd already been through drum and bass and heard that getting awful. So I didn't want to stick with that, so I just kind of put that on the back burner. And then I think the kind of last kind of dubstepy thing I did was You Always Started on 10,000 Yen, which was the B-side of Ordinary Things. And in 2010 I made that? Yeah, in 2010. And it came out in 2011, I think. And so that was the last kind of 140 kind of thing I did.
This is all under Forensics?
No, this is under xxy.
Oh, you moved over?
Yeah, and once I came back in 2011, it was xxy again.
Okay. So when was the transition into house?
That was it. Once Ordinary Things and You Always Started came out, Ordinary Things was just kind of a housey thing, and there was a whole kind of UK funky, kind of weird house kind of vibe going on at the time, and it was very enjoyable. I was very into it, and I always liked house music, and I was buying house music, and it kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of play around and just see if I can make house tracks. And Ordinary Things is it's a house kind of track, and I really liked playing that tempo, and I just using different stuff that I liked, like broken beat and techno as well and playing that, whereas with dubstep I was kind of confined to this kind of 140 kind of speed. So yeah, 2011 I just went full in and just like 4/4 thing about 130 or below. It's like a house and techno kind of vibe.
And you were using Ableton already at this stage?
Yeah, I switched over. I went on to my friends and he was using Ableton, and then he just showed me the basics. And it seemed like a much more user-friendly workstation than like Cubase, which I had to like drop in lots of samples. So yeah, just as soon as I started using it, then it's just become like second nature to me. I think the best kind of software is stuff that you don't even have to think about. It's just invisible. Because if I'm writing music in Ableton, I just now know where everything is, and I know that if I want to do something, there's a way to do it. And I've just used it ever since. Everything.
Cool. Shall we talk a bit about your workflow and what you've got in the studio, that kind of thing? Yeah,
we can have a look around. So normally, I either start tracks kind of one or two ways. I either start in Ableton, and I'll write some drums in there if I want it to be something which is not kind of Roland kind of drum sounds. And let's have a look. This is... Yeah. So this is No Matter Project. This is the track came out 10,000 yen recently. Now, this is a bunch of samples from a D660. It's a Boss, or technically they are Roland sounds, but I guess I started writing drums in Ableton. It's like a simple electro kind of thing, and there's kicks on a separate channel. There's a couple of different kicks from the D660 fit pretty well together. Okay, so the No Matter started with a simple outline that I wrote for the Mini V, the Arturia VSTI, and it's a very simple outline with a bit of delay, and I wanted to make a kind of fairly emotional long build up to the track, and I added a UHD Diva, essentially playing the same thing but higher up, and it was EQ'd a bit. So it's just the top end, and then once I got that going, I was quite into that. I added some granularized vocals, so I used the Max for Live granulator, and just took sections of like a vocal loop that's from a sample pack, I think. And that's in the granulator, and I thought that was pretty nice, and I think, yeah, I did. So then I basically was playing around with some chords on the Juno, probably on this keyboard, because the Juno is DC beat up, so I can send MIDI to it, and then the audio comes back into the sound card. So I think I was just playing chords to go with the art line. Just play that. And then it looks like I recorded it all in one take. Sent from a MIDI track into the Juno, and then me just automating it live. Probably frequency, like the envelope. And now I think, from the sounds of it, that was going into the eventide space, which is here. Just adds these massive kind of cavernous reverbs to stuff, and you can get freezes, and you can take chords. I often take chords from the freezes of this, so you just turn it all the way up with freezes and decay, and you just have this huge kind of pad sound. It sounds like there's quite a lot of eventide on that Juno chord. And then I think next was kind of like writing a bass line. Initially, I think it just had like a kind of single note bass line, which was this. You probably won't be able to hear it, but it's like a sub bass. It just pins underneath the pad, and then adds a bit more kind of emotional vibe to it. And that was, I guess I wrote the notes and bounced audio from the MIDI saw just sub, so the cut-off will be really low, long sustain, long decay, and probably a square wave. That's it for that. So yeah, and that was, I had this intro going, and I think the bass line repeated into the drums once I got into the main bit, but I just felt like I didn't have enough movement with just a single kind of note bass line. So I kind of wrote a kind of electro-y kind of bass line, which was also sent to the Minitor. Let's have a listen. There's a little bit of tape saturation from satin on there, actually quite a bit. So normally it sounds like I made the bass line, wrote it in MIDI, sent it to the Minitor, and then I've sent that back into my sound card quite hot because there's quite a bit of distortion from the input there. I've got the Focusrite Sapphire underneath the desk, and if you run it fairly hot into the sound card, you get some nice kind of distortion from the preamps. That was, that's the bulk of the track essentially. That, and then bringing back in the chords and these granularized vocals, which are really nice. And then it was just about arrangement essentially, just arranging that so you can automation on the ups to bring it up, and then go into the breakdown. Monitor repeats, and yeah, it just goes through it again. It's not the most complicated. I never make my tracks too complicated. I think simple is always best. There was times when I was running, I don't know, like 30, 40 tracks in it, channels in a track, and then I was like, this is too much. With the Ableton drum rack, I can mix stuff within the drum rack itself. I don't need to separate out all my different hits. I can select each one, and then this one's got panning on it, and then a couple of the claps got some saturation from FabFilter Satin, which is I use on everything basically. And so yeah, I just mix it in that, and there's some ambience. So yeah, I mix it in the drum rack, so I don't have to have 7 channels just for those drums. Sometimes I work in audio and I will have, 8 to 10 channels of just single drum hits or whatever. But I find it much easier to work in drum rack now. Now I know it inside out. There's a bit of 606 I recorded in from this. I have kind of latency issues, so I have to record stuff in on its own. Kind of get it sort of in time by hitting play. The 606 is coming from the beat step, because it's the only thing that has DIN sync in my whole setup. And there's issues with kind of USB latency for that, and there's a bit of latency from the sound card, and I can never quite get it right, and it annoys me. But yeah, just record stuff in from my hardware. Normally I'll start in the software and then use the hardware to kind of supplement it. Chances are with the Juno pad that I did that probably with Diva, and then I like Diva, and Diva sounds great as a plugin, but I guess I wanted to use the Juno instead, so I created a MIDI track and then just copied the MIDI over and then recorded that. Sometimes I'll layer up like a Juno with a pad from a VSTI, just because there's different. There's only so far you can go with a Juno. It has a sound which is great, and then by using something like Diva to make pads is also brilliant. I love this synthesizer. It sounds great. It's definitely one of my go-to plugins. With Ableton, I don't use a lot of the Ableton plugins. I essentially just use it I use it for the sequencing. It's a brilliant sequencer. I've never managed to get my head around the bundled plugins. Use a lot of Max for Live stuff. So, I make music in the computer, and then sometimes, instead of using the computer, I would jam out with the kind of hardware I have here. So, this is all, I think it's all made up. At the moment, the computer is made up because I was recording some stuff before, but then I can unplug it in and plug the B step in, and then use that as a sequencer, and don't even have to turn my computer on to just jam and play around with ideas. And then a lot of it's routed through to the Tascam Porta Studio, which is it's become an essential part of my studio actually.
Nice.
So these are in there, and sometimes I jam and sometimes I record it. It doesn't work out very well normally, so I record it into the computer instead. And it also acts as like a secondary mixer to mix the hardware that goes into the computer, because I don't have enough plugins, I don't have a proper mixer. But then the Porta Studio is really good, kind of saturating stuff. So if I make drums in the computer, and they sound okay, and they sound nice, but then I will send them out from the computer into a tape, and I'll record that nice and hot, get some UV EQs to kind of shape the sound. They're pretty simple EQs, they sound pretty nice. And then once it goes into tape, a little bit red, like a little bit in the reds. But then what I'll do is I'll send it then back into the computer, and the drums will sound a lot nicer than just the standard MIDI drums. I guess it's a combination of the tape and then the preamps of my sound card. So when I finish tracks and we're about to get to the pre-master stage, I will record. Basically, the whole bounce of this was then sent onto a brand new tape, recorded, and then sent back into the computer for the final pre-master, just to add a little bit of tape distortion. There's a lot of sounds from the computer in this rather than external stuff. So I wanted to kind of glue it together, and I think the tape does that really well.
Nice. So it's probably like a more affordable way of getting that kind of analog warmth.
Yeah, it is.
Than getting a massive desk.
You don't have to get a massive desk. You can get a really small kind of Porta Studio. The Tascam ones are really high quality. You just have to buy good tapes. So it costs you a couple of quid each for a decent tape, Type 2 tape. But you get them on eBay, get a pack, and then it's really affordable, much cheaper than paying for a whole roll of 4-inch tape, whatever.
There's some expensive kit up here though, or stuff that's quite hard to get hold of, like
the Monopoly. There's
vintage synths.
It's on loan from Cosmin TRG at the moment. It's a swap with my JX3P.
It used to belong to AppRap.
Apparently, yeah.
Nice.
It came from Japan, so it's got this massive converter underneath the desk that uses up loads of space. There's the Juno 60. There's nothing that vintage. The 606. There's a 707 underneath, which doesn't have a power supply at the moment.
And then something a bit more recent, Innovation Circuit.
The Innovation Circuit, which is really fun.
Yeah.
To come up with ideas, and some of the sound you get out there are really good. The synth engine is really nice in it. I like playing the keyboard on it, but run out of MIDI cables at the moment. So the TR8, I kind of always wanted one, but then one came up on my eBay alerts really cheap, and I just went for it. And it's really good. It's really fun to play with. The Minitor I use on everything. It's got a great bass, a really nice filter.
Yeah, it's really popular at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty affordable. I think I paid about 400 quid for it back a few years ago in London.
Cool.
The Eventide Space, it's more of a... I guess it was more marketed as a kind of guitar pedal, but it does have stereo inputs and outputs, and you can set it to line level. And it's just really, the algorithms are really nice on it. I think you can get some of them, they have a software version of some of the algorithms that you can buy.
Cool.
But this, it's perfect. I kind of want to get a delay to go alongside it. Because now it's set up as just a send, so that I can send stuff from Ableton into it and then back in. And it's a really nice reverb.
What was the track we were just listening to?
This track's called No Matter. Came out on 10,000 yen a couple of months ago, maybe April, I think. Yeah, it's been out for a little while now. You can pick it up, buy it if you want to. Or stream it on Spotify, whatever you prefer. Yeah, and currently working on another EP for 10,000 yen. We've got 3 out of 4 tracks finished, so we just need to do one more and then it's done. I've got some ideas, and for the next couple of weeks I'm just going to try and jam out a few things.
Got some remixes on, do you say? Or?
Yeah, I've done a couple of remixes recently. Can't actually remember who they're for.
So it's either you can't say or you can't remember.
Well, one of them I can't. It's not been announced yet. The other one I can't remember the name of the band. It's really nice, coming on One Little Indian's the label. But yeah, I kind of really enjoy remixing. So the more I do, I just find it really fun just to have the parts already there. They're already in key. I can just then mess around with everything and just get it flowing. Yeah, a couple of remixes.
Nice.
Just,
and gigs?
Gigs, I've got a few things coming up. I just recently had a couple. One was at Panorama Bar in Berlin, and before that, after that, I played in Bruges recently. I think I'm going out to Brazil in a few weeks' time to play some shows. Just waiting for the contract on that, but it looks pretty good. It's going to be exciting. Yeah, and just playing around Europe, UK. Might go back out to America again. Something I really enjoy doing. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Yeah.